So, attorney Davis Little is a 2010 graduate of the Mercer College of Liberal Arts and is a proud Georgia girl with roots on the dirt roads of I-75 South. She graduated from Mercer and majored in political science with a minor in communications. And she's always knew she wanted to be a lawyer. That is after she got her first C in high school in biology. Biology, good old biology. While at Mercer, she was very involved on campus as a member of Quad Works, which is the creating and planning program here on campus. And she was also a part of Mercer's first NPHC step show. Unfortunately, we won't be having that due to COVID, but again, that is a great opportunity for you all to meet the National Panhellenic Council of our students here on campus. She's also a student judicial council member and much more. She's also a proud member of the Iota Eta chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, where she was initiated in fall 2007. Cara attended Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and where she graduated magna cum laude, congratulations, with her Juris Doctorate in 2014. Subsequently, she moved to Dallas, Texas, to be an associate in a civil law firm focusing on labor and employment. After working in the private sector for 5 years, she moved to Washington, D.C. in 2019 to work as a labor and employment policy advisor for the Department of Veteran Affairs. In that role, she advises the VA secretary and department leadership on high-level employment policy concerning the effect of agency. She is also a wedding and event planner. Ooh, I love it. I love how to pivot. And with 3 weddings under her belt and 4 more, oh, that's amazing, in 2001 and 2022, Cara lives in Maryland with her husband and Mercer sweetheart, yes, Benjamin, and their blue Boston Terrier, Baxter. So without further ado, everyone's giving you kudos already on your amazing background and your amazing work. Look, snaps Women History Month, yes. And so what I'll do is I'll let you get started, and I will not prolong the wait for you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to attorney Cara Davis Little. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ansley. I really appreciate the introduction. When you say it out loud, it sounds much more impressive than when I was going through it because it was a mess. But thank you so much. This was such an amazing opportunity to be able to speak at my alma mater and also just to speak to law students as well. So let me share my screen really fast. Okay. And before we get started, this is just going to be a really informal talk. And I'm just going to chat with you guys about what I've been through in my career, how I dealt with my issues, having insecurities, as well as going through depression when not enjoying my job, and how I pivoted to a job that I truly enjoy and love, as well as passion projects like my wedding planning business, as well as the other entrepreneurial endeavors that I have delved into recently. So the title of my talk is How to Love What You Do on and off the clock. And as millennials, well, I don't even know if people in college are millennials right now. I'm a millennial. And one of the things that we focus on is making sure that we have multiple streams of income. And we also want to make sure that while doing that, we love what we do and we turn the things that we love into money. And so that is why I named my talk this, but also the other bigger reason was I was miserable in the law firm environment and I needed a change. Oh, wait, okay. So I've already been introduced, but I am a Southern girl, so I'm gonna say, hey, y'all. My name is pronounced Cara, not Cara. Please do not call me Cara. I will correct you. I am an AKA attorney. I love tacos. My 21st birthday party was themed tacos and tequila. I am a bibliophile, which means I read a ton. I'm in multiple book clubs. And my goal is to read like 2 books a month. I am a wedding and event planner. I am a wife to my lovely Mercer sweetheart, who I met his freshman year of college, and I was a sophomore. So yes, I am a cougar. And I am also my mama's favorite. And my mother, shout out to her, helped me with this amazing PowerPoint because I haven't used PowerPoint in like 10 years. So shout out to my mama who is on the call. And I hope that she bakes me something for giving her that shout out. Okay, so we already kind of went through my bio, so I won't spend a ton of time on it, but I did want to just talk about the fact that while I was at Mercer, I probably did everything. I didn't even list a ton of the things that I actually participated in. One of the things that I just remembered and that I was talking to Ansley about was I actually founded the Black Law Student Association on Mercer's campus, which are on the undergrad campus, which I just was informed is still going today, which is so awesome and amazing. I had no clue that it would outlive me, and so it's just, well, not outlive me, but outlive my tenure at Mercer, and still be going 11 years later. So I'm very proud. I'm shocked, honestly. Yeah, I did some of everything at Mercer. I was super involved. And I think it's what helped me to really enjoy my college experience. And one of the biggest things that I helped to plan was the Stomp Fest step show, which we I think did it for 2 years when I was at Mercer. And not only did it allow for certain NPHC sororities and fraternities to get money for their chapters, it also exposed Mercer University, which we all know is a majority white campus, to NPHC and their culture and everything about them. And so I thought I was very proud of that, and the fact that it's still going, even though right now it's canceled because of COVID. It definitely it gives me a ton of pride to know that a lot of the things that I started at Mercer when I was very young are still there today. I graduated magna cum laude from law school, and I was super proud of myself. My mama was real proud, and that's something that I love to share. Um, to delve deeper into my professional career, when I graduated in 2014, I became a federal law clerk for Chief Judge Carl Stewart of the United States Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And if you are in law school, if you know anything about becoming an attorney, getting a federal clerkship is a huge deal, especially when it's with a court of appeals, of a federal court of appeals. And not only did I get that, but the judge that I worked for, Chief Judge Carl Stewart, was the first Black chief judge of the Fifth Circuit at the time. He's no longer the chief judge, but it was such a source of pride that I was working for a Black judge. He deliberately brought on law clerks and law students of color. And so I'm very proud to say, so shout out to Judge Stewart. If anybody that's on the call is interested in doing a federal clerkship, please reach out to me. I can help you. The application process is brutal, so I can definitely be available to help. Um, I also worked at several Dallas, Texas law firms doing labor and employment. I also was they attempted to pigeonhole me into doing construction litigation, which if you look at me, you can know that that's not something that I'm going to do. They also tried to pigeonhole me into several other practice areas, but labor and employment was what I ultimately knew that I loved from law school, and it's what I fought for to be able to do. Um, Fast forward to 2019 when we picked up and moved to DC, and I actually took a significant pay cut, which we'll discuss later, to work for the federal government, specifically the US Department of Veterans Affairs, as a labor and employment policy attorney. I had always wanted to do policy work because I felt like it was very impactful, not only for the agency, but also for the individual, specifically the veterans. And so when I got that job, and even now, I absolutely love it. And it is something that gives me pride every day. I feel like I've been saying things give me pride, but they really do. Um, and outside of my professional career, I am also an entrepreneur, and I have had several endeavors over the last few years. One of which was I had a podcast named called Millennial Love, which actually won several awards, and it was very successful. We ended up ending it because I moved to DC, and we grew up, and I got married, and people started living their lives, and so it just kind of fizzled out. But We almost had a TV show, which is even like insane to say. We still might have a TV show, fingers crossed. Um, but it was something that I started with a couple of friends at the time. And when it grew to be enormous, meaning we had over 1 million listens over a 2 year span. And we raised a ton of money for several charities and things like that. I knew then that I really could be successful in any business that I started. And so after I planned my wedding in 2018 to 2019, I had always loved event planning in general. And after I planned my wedding, I was like, you know what? I could plan other people's weddings. And so that's what I did. I started an LLC. I paid my little, I think it was like $300 or something at the time. And I just started and I planned my first wedding for free, and I have booked 5 weddings since then. So it has definitely been a wild ride, but I have enjoyed every bit of being my own boss in that regard. So, getting to the meat of the conversation, when I graduated from law school, first of all, I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. Definitely first person in my family to graduate with a master's degree or a doctorate or some sort of secondary degree. And then I graduated magna cum laude. So, of course, I'm so excited. My family's excited. My whole family's at the graduation. Somehow, parts of my family were on the floor at the graduation, not even sitting in the stands. It was just crazy. And I was so excited to start my first job and to really become a lawyer. And then I get to the law firm and I absolutely hate my job. And it was very disheartening. It made me really sad because I just put all this work in law school. I loved law school. I loved the people. I loved the work. I loved the the rigor and the research. And I just really believed, excuse me, in my heart of hearts that that's what being a lawyer was. And it wasn't. And I hated it. Um, I posted this because, of course, I mean, everybody has to talk about Legally Blonde because that's the quintessential lawyer movie. But yes, it was hard. It was very hard. And it was hard for several reasons. So, why did I hate it? The first reason was there was no autonomy and I was constantly micromanaged. And when you're in a large law firm setting, of course, the goal is to make sure that your legal analysis is correct and it's favorable to your client. And so, of course, some level of oversight in any job is reasonable and necessary to ensure that everything is correct. But when you have a boss or bosses who are right here at all times asking you what you're writing, how quickly are you writing it, telling you it's terrible, not giving you any feedback about how to fix it, breaking you down, and constantly micromanaging you, it definitely becomes a problem. The second worst thing about being in a law firm is the dreaded billable hour. So, the good thing about the billable hour is when you're busy, it's easy to meet your goals. And if you don't know much about law firms, they generally have a minimum billable hour requirement that you have to meet every fiscal year. And generally, it equates to about between 8 to 10 hours per day. That's billed hours. That doesn't mean hours that you're sitting in your office. That means hours that you are actually working on a designated project. Which means when I am putting my time into my records, I cannot build that time. When I go get coffee to start my day, I'm not billing that time. When I say hello, do this obligatory hello to everybody in the office to make sure they know I'm there, that's not billable time. And so making sure you actually are working to get the billable time is extremely hard. And also recording your time and making sure you're recording your time accurately is also very hard. And it's something that law firms could fire you for. if you don't reach those goals. The other thing was every firm that I worked at, if I wasn't the only one, I was still the only one, if you know what I mean. Um, and my first law firm, I wasn't the only one, but I was the only person in my section who was Black, and a Black woman specifically. And the only person who seemed to care about what the perception of the firm was on the outside as well as the inside. And I spoke up plenty of times, especially at my first firm, about the lack of diversity and then bringing more people in. And it seems like now, looking back on that firm's website, they have added some diversity, but of course, the numbers are still skewed. They probably have less than 10% people of color on their roster right now. Um, Another issue that I had was when working with certain clients, a lot of the work was you were basically representing large companies. And the only thing they're worried about is the dollar. How much money is this going to save the company? Is this going to expose the company to any potential loss of money? That's really it. It doesn't have any impact on an individual. It doesn't have any real global impact. It's really about saving money, and that for me was not fulfilling enough to continue to love my job. The other reason why I hated the law firm is because I felt like I was being pigeonholed into different practice areas that I did not want. And that was because the firm has business needs. And when you join a firm and they have lost somebody in a particular practice area, let's just say construction law, they need to fill that spot because they have a lot of work in that particular area. I don't want to do that. I told you, from the beginning, I wanted to do employment law. You ignored that. Well, no, you didn't even ignore it. You told me, oh, yeah, 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 you'll totally do employment law, but we also need you to do construction law. Um, I don't want to do that. But it felt like, in several of my positions, they forced me to do certain types of law, even though it was not what I wanted to do. And I had to fight to to basically get the work that I wanted. And the last reason why I hated it was because I had no time outside of work to do any entrepreneurial endeavors. When I first started, I was working like crazy. I would work probably from 8 to 7 every day, and that was normal. Leaving at 7 p.m. or later was normal. I was not the only person in there burning the midnight oil. And there have been plenty of times where I had been given an assignment with much like not enough time to finish it in a reasonable amount of time, and I've had to pull an all-nighter at the firm. I have literally slept at my desk at a law firm to make sure that a certain assignment was completed. And so all that to say that there were several reasons why working at the law firm was not for me, and I realized it very, very early on. Um, And then I had an aha moment um, where I realized like this really ain't for me, and I'm really about to leave. And above all, the all the other things I just talked about, the lack of diversity issue I think was one of the bigger ones too, because in this particular instance, we had just won a case for these clients. We were at a dinner, and it was me, my immediate supervisor, who was a white woman, the clients, who were both white women, and the managing partner of the firm, which you guessed it, was a white man. And we're all sitting there, and I'm the only Black person in there in the restaurant, I'm sure, only one except for the staff. And I'm kikiing, rubbing elbows, with my client because I had done a lot of the work for the client. And the managing partner, this old white man, who I actually had a pretty good relationship with beforehand, told the table that his secretary, I don't even remember how this came up, that his secretary looked like Aunt Jemima off of the syrup bottle. And when he said that, I was the only person offended. Everybody else was dying laughing. And I am like mortified. Not only because I knew his secretary and I knew that she did not look like Aunt Jemima, but also just because I'm Black. And that is very inappropriate to say, even if she actually looked like her. It was so awkward. It was probably the worst experience I've ever had in a job setting where I felt as if I couldn't and didn't know what to say. And when you think about racist situations, you really like believe that you'll be like, I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna tell them how I feel. And really what happens is you literally are so shocked and appalled that you retreat. And I remember later when I told my husband about it, I literally said to myself, I don't even remember what I think I blacked out because I was so embarrassed that I didn't even say anything. And I was really looking for my white woman boss to protect me in that moment, and she did not. And it reminded me, this is kind of off topic, but it actually brought up those feelings that from the interview with Meghan Markle, where people tell you that they will protect you and they don't. So anyway, after the race situation happened, I then was really serious about leaving, and I was trying to figure out what my next move would be. But before I decided what my next move would be, I thought through several things that I needed in my next job to ensure that I would be fulfilled. And I I actually, after talking with my therapist, I am a huge proponent of therapy. If you do not have a therapist, please get one. Your insurance will cover it. I was talking to my therapist, and she was like, "You should write down things that you need in your next position, and they you may not get all of them, but what will give you the ultimate fulfillment in your next job? What things, if you had them in a perfect world, would allow you to really enjoy your job?" And I really sat and thought about it. Um, and I came up with six personal laws of fulfillment. And that whole my personal laws of fulfillment is all my mama. She came up with that. So shout out to her. But these laws work not only just for your career and your professional life, but also the things that make you happy outside of work, whether you want to create a business with those things, whether you don't, you just want to do them as a hobby. I think that these six personal laws of fulfillment can be applied to across multiple different disciplines. So, the first personal law of fulfillment is autonomy. And as we discussed earlier, when I was at my first and my last law firm, I struggled with being micromanaged. And so I realized that one of the biggest things that I needed to allow myself to feel fulfilled in any job, it didn't matter if I was a teacher or whatever I ended up doing, I had to have the autonomy to make the decisions for what I would be doing. So in my current position, of course, I have a supervisor, and of course, she checks my work and approves everything. But she gives me, and this job gives me the autonomy to create whatever schedule I want to perform my work in. Excuse me. I was I didn't mention this earlier, but I was doing litigation work at the law firm, and litigation just means there are lawsuits involved. So there are active suits. And when you're dealing with any sort of lawsuit, there are going to be very strict deadlines. And sometimes the deadlines sneak up on you and you have not a ton of time to complete things. And I knew that if I wanted the autonomy that I desired, I could not do litigation. And that was one of the reasons why I went into policy work, because with policy work, you're given the autonomy to complete whatever tasks you've been assigned in the time frame that some of them have strict deadlines, and I do adhere to those. But for the most part, I have the autonomy to say, okay, today I'm going to work on A, B, and C. Tomorrow I'm going to work on D, E, F. And I make those rules and I complete those tasks on my own time. And that has helped me to be more productive, um, to actually be more correct in what I'm writing, and also just make sure that my boss is happy. Um, so autonomy was a huge thing for me in my current job, and it's something that I actually asked about in my interview. How individualized is everyone's schedule, and not like when you come in and clock out, but as it relates to the types of assignments. And that was something that really drew me to my current position. The second personal law of fulfillment was or is work life balance. And everybody throws this word around, especially during COVID, because you're glued to a screen, your home and your work has been blurred. There's no separation of that. Um, Even when we get off work, especially during the winter, you know, it's dark at 4 p.m. You don't really want to do anything, and it starts to weigh on you very heavily. When I was working at multiple law firms, as I said earlier, did not have a ton of time outside of work, and I was making a lot of money. I mean, all the money, but I didn't. When I got off work, I didn't have the time to enjoy the money. I missed several large events or important events in my family, and my friends' lives. I couldn't go on certain trips. I couldn't do certain things because I had things due. And there was no balance there. It seemed like my work, like I was taking work home all the time. That was not a rare occurrence. It happened all the time. I had several manila folders full of things all strewn throughout my apartment. And it felt like work was home and home was work. And there was no separation of the two. And I never felt as if I could take time off without feeling guilty. And when I had that moment where I started to feel guilty when taking off work for my own sanity, that's when I knew that my next job had to be one, even if I made less money. Even if I made less money, my next job had to be one that allowed me the space to enjoy the things and the people that I enjoy outside of work without feeling guilty. And working for the government is that job, folks. And if you are if you're interested, we can talk about that after and you can ask any questions. But working for a public agency, it just gives you more work-life balance because the workload is not as strenuous, especially in the policy realm. And we do have a lot of work, and it ebbs and flows. But when you're off at 5, you're off at 5. And, nobody is breathing down your neck about something at 10 p.m. And I would routinely have to keep my work phone on me when I was at the firm to make sure that my boss wasn't emailing me at night. And so that's the work-life balance piece. It's super important, and it also leaves room when you have a good work-life balance. It leaves room for your entrepreneurial endeavors or whatever else you want to do outside of work, whether it's travel, hobbies, reading, anything that helps to fulfill your life. The next thing that was super important to me for my next position, to help me to be fulfilled, was to perform legal work with a greater impact. As I said earlier, when I was working at the firms, it felt like, and this is the truth, everything was about how much money they could save. If we could save them $20,000 on a case, we are, you know, the bomb. And I have worked on like millions of dollars in damages at stake for certain companies, and that's a lot of money. But to them, it's a drop in the bucket, really. And so it didn't feel like I was making an impact. My little brief that I drafted or my motion to for summary judgment that got granted, yay, but it wasn't making any sort of impact with the world, the greater good. I just felt like I needed to do more. And so when I was looking for a new position um, outside of the private sector, I knew that I wanted to work for an institution that where my work mattered. I impacted individuals, but not just individuals. I just had a I had a my work had a greater impact than just money. And in my current position, everything that I do, all of the policy analysis that I conduct, all of the legally, all of the handbooks that I say are legally sufficient, or each time I review someone's education reimbursement, I am I am impacting an individual employee or veteran, um, and how their life will be. And that to me means everything because I can pinpoint who I am helping and how I'm helping them. And also the agency. I can help the agency, which then helps the veterans. And so it really boils down to making feeling as if I am truly helping people. And so my current job allows me to do that. I am loving it. And not saying that you can't help people in law firms because there are personal injury yeah, personal injury. You have other, small civil cases where you can help people. But that just wasn't what I ended up being in. And so it wasn't something that I experienced at the time.